I'm Daniel Peterson. I'm president of the Interpreter Foundation and a professor of Islamic Studies and Arabic at BYU. And I'd like to say something about Israel, going to Israel. One thing I find is a lot of people say when we're going, or I've heard it from people who've gone with us, others have said to them, aren't you nervous? Aren't you scared to go to Israel? And the answer is no. I've never been frightened to go to Israel. It is safe. I've never felt endangered there in any way, and I frankly have lost count of how many times I've been there, and I've lived there on two different occasions for about 6 months, along with um, oh, I don't know, 20 visits, 20. I have no idea. Um, and I've never felt endangered there. And I tell people when you go, if you're nervous, I'm thinking of one woman in particular who told me that she was scared to death. She went along because her husband really wanted to go. Um, but when she got there, I said, "Do you feel safe?" And she says, "Yeah, I do." And this is what I tell people. When you get there, within half an hour of arriving at the airport, maybe sooner, you'll realize there's nothing to be scared of. You get in the taxi and you're going to your hotel, or however you're getting to the hotel, you'll realize this is ordinary life. We typically stay in Tel Aviv, or the area of Tel Aviv, on the first night. And as you drive through the city toward your hotel, you'll see people shopping on the street, carrying their shopping bags, and they're out doing all the things that people do in a normal town along the seaside. And you might see the beach. People are playing in the beach. You can walk along the sand. And you realize there's nothing to be afraid of. This is not a war zone. We're not talking about, going to Kabul, Afghanistan for a visit. This is a civilized place where, yes, something can happen, but that can happen in Los Angeles or New York or Salt Lake City for that matter. Things like that just don't happen. The security is very good and life is quite secure. And the advantage of going with a company is the company helps to judge the risks. If there were a war or something like that, presumably there'd be a decision maybe to back off. But those things almost never happen. And even frankly, when there's some strife in the Middle East, it doesn't affect the places that we go. We don't take you, for example, into the Gaza Strip. There are certain areas that we just wouldn't go. But the areas in Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, the Galilee, and so on are absolutely serene. And you won't sense any tension at all. I can pretty well guarantee that. So nothing to be scared of. Why do I love going to Israel? Oh my word! You've heard these stories all your life. You've heard of the places all your life. You've heard of the Sea of Galilee. You've heard of Capernaum, the headquarters of the church. You've heard of Jerusalem, the Temple Mount, where the temple stood, the Garden Tomb. And now to actually get to see those things, it will change the way you read the scriptures. It makes them come alive in a way that you'll never lose. You'll see those places in your mind when you read about them. You'll know where they are. You'll know how close they are together, which is a real surprise to a lot of people. How the New Testament stories are overlaid on the Old Testament sites, and how nothing is very far apart because Israel just isn't that big. You'll have a really vibrant sense of the reality of the stories. The fact that they took place not in a far away galaxy long ago, but they happened in a real place with tangible rocks and stones and fields. And one of the things that I think is true is that the parables will come alive in a way. I laughingly tell people when you hear the story of the parable of the sower goes forth and some of the seed falls on stony ground. When you're around Jerusalem, you'll ask yourself, where else could it have fallen? You'll see how rocky the soil is there. And what he was talking about, when he talks about stone carving, stone building, the stone cut out of the mountain without hands, the chief cornerstone, you'll see the limestone that's used throughout the area for building. You'll understand what Jesus is talking about more. And if you go to a place like Sepphoris, which I think was the city set upon a hill, that will suddenly take on a whole new meaning for you. I think that traveling to Israel is life-changing. For those who read the scriptures, those who study the Old and New Testaments, for those whose lives are built sort of on those stories, you'll never see those stories the same way again.